Alrighty, so Twister, released in 1996, directed by Jan de Bont, starring Bill Paxton, Helen Hunt, Carrie Elwes, Jamie Gance, and many others. Essentially, for the plot, during the approach of the most powerful series of storms in decades, university professor Dr. Jo Harding, played by Helen Hunt, and her underfunded team of students prepare for the release of a device named Dorothy. It turns out they actually have 4 of these devices prepared. It's kind of their prototype release. It's a groundbreaking tornado data gathering device, conceived by her estranged husband, Bill, played by Bill Paxton, not Harding. Essentially, how this device functions is it needs to be dropped and placed in the path of an oncoming tornado. When it is then picked up, it will open, and a bunch of sensors will release into the actual tornado to collect information such as speed and pressure and everything that is inside the tornado, as at this point in time, in 1996, nobody knows what goes on in the center of a tornado. The movie actually starts with Bill driving down with his new fiancée Melissa, played by Jamie Gance, in the truck with him. Essentially, Bill shows up, Jo says, "Hey, we're about to take Dorothy out for a test run. I didn't know you'd be bringing your fiancé with you to sign these divorce papers. Why would you do that? That's weird." This is immediately followed by the storm actually coming, and they get the alert saying, "Okay, pack it all up, we have to go, the tornado is happening, we need to get this on the road. Are you coming or not?" And Bill is, "Yeah, I want to come." Bill and Melissa are taken along, so they take Dorothy out, strapped into the back of Joe's truck to go chase this storm and get this thing going. As they are heading out, they see their evil corporate, privately funded rival who is in it for the money, not the science, zooms past them in their super slick all-black sedan caravan. Bill, at least, is like, "What is Carrie Elwes doing here?" His name is Jonas. Obviously, he's chasing storms, but we have to build the drama, right? And Joe is like, he also has a form of Dorothy that he totally stole and is trying to take credit for, and if he gets there first, he's gonna take the credit and you don't get anything. Obviously, this makes Bill very angry, and he's kind of committed to be with them for the rest of the film. I did also forget to mention that they have 4 Dorothys, and naturally, if the first one had succeeded, the movie wouldn't have been very long. They do end up going through all 4 Dorothys, and finally the 4th one actually takes, and it's a quite beautiful scene as the sensors are taken up into the tornado and we get the sensor information for the first time. Alrighty, so on to the scientific accuracy of the film Twister, 1996. I have my little book here because there is so many things that I just didn't want to miss any. So here we go. I have a column for things that happened right and things that happened wrong, both with the film itself and scientifically. We'll try to keep it to the scientific side. I have a lot of feelings about this. Alright, so very early on in the film, in the very first scene, you actually see Jo Harding, Helen Hunt, as a child, basically experiencing an F5 tornado for the first time. It ends up taking the life of her father and traumatizing her for life, causing her to want to be a storm chaser. Unhealthily dealt with trauma. So in the very first scene, Joe's father says, "Oh no, there's a tornado coming. It looks like it could be an F5. This is wrong for a couple of reasons, from the fact that the Fujita scale was actually not developed till 2 years later. This beginning scene taking place in 1969. The Fujita scale was not developed until 1971, so this couldn't have happened. Also, though, there is no way to predict if a tornado is going to be an F5 before it has done the damages. That's kind of based on the damage it has done. There's no way to say there is an F5 tornado coming. It doesn't work that way. There's a tornado coming, and we will determine if it is an F5 after we see the damage it has caused. Tornado warnings also didn't actually happen until 1973. On the TV that you see when they're saying, "Oh, it looks like an F5 is coming," they're calling it a tornado warning, and those weren't actually implemented until 1973. You can't know the strength of a tornado just looking at it. You can't know the speed of a tornado just by looking at it. All you know is it's big and it's bad and it's a tornado. Run. Green skies don't necessarily mean tornadoes. There's a scene in the film where he's like, going green, which, coming from Minnesota, I totally get. The sky does turn green oftentimes when there's a tornado. It does not mean there is a tornado, but they are often seen together. This is actually due to the fact that there is a lot of hail and just general moisture in the sky that a lot of the light is coming through. It happens when there's a lot in there, and storms that are powerful enough to produce tornadoes tend to produce this. Do not take refuge under a bridge. That's a terrible idea. It'll wind tunnel, it's bad. Also, the very first tornado, when they're trying to drop off Dorothy, they're driving through a ditch and they end up hitting a bridge at way too high velocity for being a waterlogged ditch that they're in. You see the tornado like fall into the ditch and follow them, and that wouldn't actually happen. The tornado would like kind of jump the ditch. Its movement is based in the sky, not in the ground, so it wouldn't have like changed course to follow this ditch. Not how it works. Don't take shelter in hangar-like buildings. As we see during the giant drive-in movie theater scene, they all take place in, it looks like, an auto body shop, which experienced storm chasers like Joe and Bill would have known not to take shelter in because it's not made to withstand strong winds like that. It's not a good place to go, and they should have known that. Tornadoes don't generally zigzag. They can sidewind and change direction, as we all know, but they can't, like, keep changing direction to follow our... That was movie placement. Tornadoes, they can't go all night. They simply can't. Generally what happens is if you are in an incredibly stormy season and the storm goes all night, the tornadoes will happen during the day, wane through the night, and then come back again during the day. This is due to the heat during the day, and it gets cooler at night, so there's not as much convection. Tornadoes cannot maintain themselves. So as far as things that they did get right, Dorothy, the prototype project that they have going on, was actually based on a real project called Toto, used by the NOAA and the NSSL. Toto was never successful and was actually retired in 1987 just because it was great in theory, but they were never able to get it to work. One of the things was when you are seeing the actual tornado from the inside, at the very last one, when they're finally able to get Dorothy 4 up in the air, there's the eye of the tornado. There's like the vortice on the inside, which is accurate also. Normally there would be like 2 or 3, there would be more than just the one. But it was cool that they put it in there because that is scientifically accurate. However, if you are tied to a pole, no matter how sturdy those poles are or how sturdy those straps are, you would be turned into a Twizzler. Overall, I would give this film a solid 4 out of 5 rocks due to scientific accuracy. What most people would generally assume to be technobabble or just general scientific jargon is actually dead on. When they say that a tornado is doing something and then they use words, it actually is doing those things, and they clearly put a lot of time and effort to making sure that they were being scientifically accurate. It's also really cool that this film actually triggered a whole new bunch of interest in the field of weather and science, and increased a whole bunch of enrollment in the field of meteorology. It is directly attributed to a huge spike in this interest back in 1996. Which is very incredible. Just as a quick side note, there are a lot of other things wrong with this film. They drive through a house, they enter in the first story window, drive up some stairs, and exit out the first story window. Also, when they're getting ready, when Joe, has this massive epiphany to put little tiny pinwheels on all of the sensors to make them fly during the tornado, this happens moments before they have the notification that the giant tornado is forming 28 miles outside of Wakita. They then have time to collect all of these only Pepsi cans, make them into tiny pinwheels, attach them to all the things on a weirdly sunny day while they're driving, and dump all of them into the last 2 remaining Dorothys. Where were they keeping the rest of these Dorothys? And then get there and release them in a 28-mile drive out of Wakita that they left for immediately. Time. Hollywood. Yeah. I hope you really enjoyed my tentative review of the 1996 release of the movie Twister. Thank you so much for watching.